District, welcome to Mayor's Night Out, 1st District, September 4th, 2019. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Usually we start off with Councilman's report, and unfortunately, 1st District Councilman Mark Kowinski could not join us tonight, so we're going to jump right into Mayor's Night. We'll go ahead and start off by introducing the staff up here. I know you know a lot of people up here, but we do this every show. I want to remind you that this is being aired live on Go Hammond TV. It's archived on Go Hammond TV also, and it's also on Facebook Live. So if you want to watch it again, it's available. We've done this every month for the first about 12 years I was mayor, maybe 10 years I was mayor, and then we switched over to 6 times a year. This is like the 150th Mayor's Night Out we've ever done. As you know, it's a good opportunity. We answer every question. We ask that you be professional, and we'll be professional back. So let's go ahead and get started. Sharon, you want to introduce the department heads?
Sharon Daniels, Personnel and College Bound.
Phil.
Jack Smith, Sewer Maintenance.
Phil.
Matt Muta, Hammond Sanitary District.
Marty Wolges, Hammond Sanitary District.
Chris Sackler, Legal Aid Clinic.
Jeff Smith, Fire Department.
Heather Gray, City Controller.
Ann Anderson, Economic Development.
Dennis Radowski, United Neighborhoods, Inc.
Ron Novak, Environmental Management.
Lakeisha Garter, City Planning.
Mark Heinz, Parks and Recreation.
Bob Vale, Building Department.
Phil Talon, Chief of Staff.
John Doty, Police Department.
Dean Button, Engineering.
Milo Krasinski, Port Authority.
Nicole Sullivan, Lost Marsh.
Africa Tarver, Planning and Development.
Chris Campbell, Information Technology.
Carmen Paniagua, Housing Authority.
Kelly Kearney, Inspections.
Jaime Prieto, Code Enforcement.
Owana Miller, Community Development.
Jason Donovan, Public Works.
Ed Cruz at Hammond Waterworks.
Sharon Daniels want to introduce herself. She's college bound in personnel. Do me a favor. It's taken 15 years for me to put together this administration. There's some people who have been here from the beginning. There's some people that joined more recently. But the thing is, they're the ones that are getting done in the city of Hammond when you call the mayor's office for help. So if you don't mind, please give them a big round of applause. I appreciate what they do. Sometimes the mayor gets the glory, and in reality, it's all the people you see up here working with the workers that are actually getting it done. So I just want to say thank you. Sometimes I don't say that enough. So thank you guys very much. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Mayor's Night Out. Remind you, this is all generated by written questions. So if you got Eileen, hi Eileen, nice to see you. Eileen's got questionnaires. If you fill them out, write down your question. You don't have to put your name and address. We only ask that you do so that we can follow it up and say, hey, we took care of your problem, or we're working on your problem. If you don't want to do it, we'll do anonymous stuff also. And then we will be taking a couple questions off the internet if we run short, because we don't want to do too short of a program. I want to thank you for rolling with the punches. We were supposed to be outside today. It seems like September Outdoor Mayor Night Out never, ever works out. I can only remember doing it one time. Do you guys remember? Yeah, I remember. We got to do it. It was nice. But we have a lot of electronic equipment, so if there's any threat of bad weather at all, we always end up in the indoor venue, which is, the Lost Marsh Clubhouse. We're very proud of this. And, I want to thank the Emerald Green for doing a good job up here. I know that they're around, so if you get a chance after you can go say thank you to the people at the Emerald Green. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Donna Muta, Special Events Coordinator. How's it going?
Hi, Mayor. I'm way in the back.
Yep, I see
just
that.
wanted to introduce to you guys Kim Roberts. She's got one of the microphones as well. So
Hi, Kim Roberts.
If we come up to you, please allow her to put the microphone close to you so we can hear you on tape. Thank you.
Before we get started, do you mind if I introduce and thank the elected officials? Please allow me that opportunity. I'd like to say thank you very much to Hammond City Clerk Robert Golick. Good to see you, Clerk Golick. I'd like to say thanks to a Robertsdale resident and our council president, Robert Markovich. Thank you very much, Councilman. Thank you to at-large Councilman Dan Spitali, a veteran, by the way. She's the leader of the Neighborhood Crime Watch in the city of Hammond. She just got done being council president, Janet Vanez. Thank you very much, Councilwoman at large. He doesn't get paid extra to be here. His district doesn't come anywhere near the 1st District, and still he's here, so I want to say thank you to Hessville's Councilman, 6th District, Scott Rakos. Thank you very much. Another veteran, and also his district is not in the 1st. He's here just because he's a good public servant, Bill Emerson, 4th District Councilman. think I got everybody. Thank you. If somebody else walks in, I'll introduce them. So like I said, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, Mayor, first up, the fire department. Why are,
Where's
why,
Smitty? Right
why
off
are
the bat.
fireworks allowed?
By the way, Smitty is a Robertsdale resident, doesn't live very far from here at all, right, Jeff?
Yeah, it's very true.
You're so close, you could have walked.
Yeah, I could have.
Yeah. All right, let's go, fireman.
Why are fireworks allowed all year round in Hammond? Is it expected on special holidays but can be a nuisance to others?
Good question.
They're not allowed on every day of the year.
They're allowed
But,
what?
I
10
mean,
days a year?
Yeah, it's
13, something
June 29th, the 30th, the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 5th of July, the 4th, there's extended hours. I believe New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
It's
Random
but
holidays.
they're not allowed 365 days a year. All I can tell you is if if it's becoming a problem, to call 911 and the police department will come out and tell them to stop. They're only supposed to be used on your property. They're not supposed to be done in the middle of the street in a public park, parking lots. So, I mean, all I can tell you is that they're not legal 365 days a year.
If the state of Indiana would allow cities, municipalities to rid themselves of fireworks, we would do it. There's no doubt in my mind there would be the will to do it because we're just as sick of it as you are. It was sort of a deal with the devil that was struck when fireworks were allowed. The state fire marshal, which every fireman I've ever met hates fireworks because they see the injuries they inflict on people. But years ago, before I became your mayor, I don't remember which year. I guess it was right around the time I took over as mayor. The state fire marshal made a deal with the fireworks lobby and legalized fireworks in Indiana. So every firework that you purchased, a piece of that goes to the state fire marshal, his fund, whatever fund they use to control. But Jeff, do you know more about that? That fund?
No, I really don't.
They don't use it for training? Or I'm
No.
sure there's something.
I mean, I really don't know what they use it
Is
for.
it maybe, I don't know.
Probably to fund their office.
So, Chief?
I do know a little bit of it.
Yeah.
We were actively involved with them because up till that point, we were working with the fire department to aggressively go out and write citations against fireworks whenever they were going off, prior to the state making them illegal. Part of that is set aside for fire safety. It's a requirement by the state. That was one of the things that the nice package they sold. Also, just so you know, fireworks stands are on call 365 days a year. You can call a phone number that's on their door. They're required to come down and open up and sell you fireworks, even though it's not that right time of the year. That's also in writing. So that's something you and we are all fighting also. So they did make it almost impossible for us to enforce it when you can buy it. You can go home and buy it tomorrow. And you call them up and they'll come out and meet you at the door and they have to sell it to you. So it makes it a little tough.
Yeah. I used to shoot off fireworks every 4th of July. And then about 3 years ago, I just got done doing this display and probably wasn't in accordance with city ordinance, to be honest, because they were big boys. And a lot of the neighbors would watch. It was sort of like a neighborhood display. And I remember the kind I was shooting off. The next day I read in the newspaper about some father in DeMott that wanted to put on a display for his family. And he lit one of those big boxes that I was lighting off to show off in front of my friends, and it didn't go off, and he stuck his face over it, and it blew his head off right in front of his family. And I was like, damn, that just hit home. Like, wow. Like, what kind of an example am I setting for my kids playing with such dangerous explosives? And I stopped. I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. And the last 2 years, I've been going to the Wolf Lake and watching the professionals blow off the fireworks. And I think that I'm setting a good example for my family. I hate them. I think Indiana makes our state look bad. I don't understand why, I just don't understand why. I wish they would give us, the locals, the ability to regulate that kind of stuff. But they don't. So we just got to live with it. And it doesn't make sense that the state fire marshal made a deal with the fireworks lobby. That's government, unfortunately. So anyway, I don't know if you have any follow-up questions about fireworks. But I tell you what, Mylan and the Port Authority staff, they do an amazing job. I think that should be a bigger event every year. I think we should start pushing it locally. Like Munster, when they do their fireworks on the 3rd of July, I live on the south side of the city. Stuff comes to a standstill when Munster's blowing it off. And when we do it up here, we get a decent crowd, but we could do better. We got a beautiful venue. Mylan, you have to spend a pretty good penny on that fireworks display. It's something we should be proud of. He's doing a good job, and I think maybe 20 years from now, we'll all be doing that, but right now, it's sort of on the low side, in my opinion. So maybe next year at the 4th of July, we can market it a little harder, and then you could all market it with your neighbors, and we'll have a really nice neighborhood party that people in Hammond all come to. So anyway, any other follow-ups on this? We don't get fireworks questions very often. I appreciate it. That's a good one. Usually if we get it, it's during the 4th of July holiday. So, all right, thanks.
Next up, Mayor, environmental related. Cargill's constant noise pollution. Will complaints have any impact on the noise control? Thank you.
Thanks. You know, Ron's reaching for the microphone right now. I want to remind you that environmental, a lot of people just think of the air and they think of the ground, but it's also the noise that's generated. And even smoke from a fire is under Ron's jurisdiction. So this is a great question about noise.
In regards to Cargill, we had complaints concerning high screeching noises, especially during the spring and winter. They went out and hired a consultant to take test and samples of decibel readings in the neighborhood. And to the most part, the noise has been reduced out there. The problem is that the noise ordinance really does not deal with industrial noise. Most of that is regulated by OSHA. So in most communities, there's not even a noise ordinance, but we've talked to them, they've gone out and tested, and they've made some adjustments in the plant there, which is really their determination of whether or not they want to participate and be a good neighbor, and I think they're trying to be a good neighbor. If we're talking about specifics, I'd be happy to talk to you after the meeting in regards to your particular issue out there, but this has gone above and beyond what most companies do.
Thank you.
Mayor, I can follow up. I know the plant manager of Cargill. His name is Adam Lawson. I highly doubt he's in the room right now, but I'd be happy to schedule a meeting with him and bring Ron along with me, and we could probably sit down and have a conversation and see if there's some things we could do to try and curb some of the noises that are coming from the plant. So I'll be happy to do that.
Sure. Donna, do you think you could earmark that one to Phil then, and then we can get something set up?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any follow-ups on this question? Yeah, hi, sir. Could we, the microphone's coming in 2 seconds, so that people on TV could hear you. Thank you.
Oh, yes, it's regarding the noise as well. And I was wondering if we could, like, some towns have no train horn so at the crossing.
Right.
And so it's kind of an easy fix. It's just the barriers. And I was wondering along that lines, maybe we could get the all the crossings to have these barriers so there's no train horns.
That's a great question, and that's a great point. So we're talking more about trains right now, and we do have, but each intersection is, if I remember correctly, 600 grand. So I mean, to do that, yeah, but each intersection you have to do about 600 grand worth of improvements. The railroad's got to be on board, obviously. And then, you know, so I'm not saying it's impossible, and there's some intersections I think needed a heck of a lot more than others, of course. You know, the one that comes right off the top of my head is the one right over there off of Seoul, right by the Renaissance, is brutal, and there's so many people that live right there. It's more of like a funding issue, and we got 300 miles of roads that we have to maintain also, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea at all, sir. It's just one of those where we have so many intersections, and each one is so expensive if you commit to it, you know. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, though. I totally agree, and if we had just an abundance of money, we'd be knocking them out left and right. So it's almost like you have to identify your really worst performer, in my opinion. Dean, could you grab a microphone? Thanks. You know a lot about this issue, obviously. This is not my bailiwick.
I do, Mayor. So the one you're talking about at Seoul Avenue is a
in general, I mean, in general.
Example,
perfect
right?
example, right?
So we did a study. It was that particular intersection was going to be about $1.2 million to fix because we were going to have to put a median down Seoul and totally isolate that Willow Court crossing.
And then there's got to be 4 gates, not 2, as on the traditional.
Well,
so you have the
would
4
block
both sides.
the Willow crossing there because it was too close to the intersection.
Gotcha.
So there are some that are worse than others in order in dealing with cost. So there are some lower cost options.
But you could do this. I've seen other communities, like Griffith, for instance, right over there on Main Street.
Munster, yep.
Munster, right.
We've looked at different areas to do that, but at this stage.
But in Hammond, when you're talking about rail crossings, we have.
There are a lot of them.
50 intersections.
I think we have 55 intersections. Yeah.
Times 600,000-ish. And then like, okay, so we could commit a whole bunch of money to do that, right? And it's a great idea, and people would certainly appreciate it. And then we'd be like, man, my road sucks. I got huge potholes in front of my house. And then it's just seems like we're chasing our tail a lot. But we're trying to, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think the best way to approach something like that is getting some consensus that this is a truly bad intersection, and we could truly make it better by investing. And we do it like one intersection at a time, you know? And there's another thing I've learned in my time as your mayor is when you're talking about trains, that's a whole other issue too. They're higher up on the food chain than we are. And they're a lot higher up on the food chain than we are. We're not even close to them. So if you say, well, Mayor McDermott, I'm going to bring the wrath of the mayor's office down on you, they're like, oh. They don't care. That's another problem. So I always say, 20, 30, 40 years from now, whoever's sitting, the different mayors that are sitting in this chair are going to get the same types of complaints in regards to trains, and they'll be telling you the same types of things unless Washington, D.C. takes care of business. For instance, and I'm going to get on my soapbox here, we have trains routinely are blocking intersections for 10 minutes in Hammond, right? It's not acceptable, but they don't care. So we had this mechanism that the PD would do, and they would write them a ticket, and you'd see Chief Doty out there writing a train ticket, and you're like, yes, good job, Chief Doty. And then little did you know, all the officers that are writing these tickets on the trains, nothing ever happens with them. We would write hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fines on these trains, and what would they buy us? Like radar detectors and stuff like that, right? Portable breath test meters. We'd have 600,000 in fines because they knew when push comes to shove, we couldn't collect. They're just trying to be like, just throw them some trivial stuff. Who cares? We'll just get rid of all these cases. Because it's the supremacy clause in the Constitution. It's really frustrating. So I guess my soapbox is this. In Washington, D.C., they could pass laws that say trains can't block intersections for more than 10 minutes. They can do stuff like that. They just don't. And when you're in a city like ours with train crossings everywhere, we sort of have to deal with it until things change. And hopefully 10, 20, 30 years from now, hopefully Washington, D.C. gets its act together and we get some people in there that change the laws. Hopefully. But until that happens, the poor mayors are going to be sitting here getting complaints all the time about the damn trains, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's unfortunate. I have a task force at NERPC I'm in charge of, the Train Crossing Task Force, and every time we meet, I always joke. It's like a therapy session. We all just sit there and complain about trains, and after about an hour, we're like, okay, see you guys in 2 months. So it's frustrating, but we'll keep fighting it. And, get our congressmen and get other congressmen to get together and realize that we're more important than the trains are. I think we can peacefully coexist, but for them just to block intersections and block ways for Chief Smith's ambulance to get to the hospital in time, it's just unconscionable. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. We weren't even talking about trains. Yes, ma'am.
Cargill continues
Cargill, that's what we were talking about. Yeah.
So if they continue to emit this noise pollution, then do I follow up with OSHA or do I follow up with Ron?
Keep following up with us so that we can document it with you. We've had situations like this in North Hammond, especially. What's that company right across the border in North Hammond?
Scrap Services.
Yeah. What's their initials?
Scrap Services.
Yeah, Scraps. Yeah, SMS, right. They're horrible neighbors. And they'll bang their train cars together at night and wake the whole neighborhood up. It'll be 2 or 3 in the morning. They don't care. And then we start working with them, and over time, hopefully it seems like it's getting better. But we're fighting these battles all the time. But the thing that makes that one so hard is that company's in Illinois, this company's in Hammond. So maybe Phil could reach out, and we could establish some type of relationship with them, okay? I'm sorry. But sometimes they approach it different with us, okay? So if it's your complaint, it's going to be given to the chief of staff, and we will follow it up, okay? And we'll keep you in contact, too. Thank you. Sorry about that. I live right by the highway in South Hammond, and I only notice it when the highway is not noisy. I'm like, wow, what's different about my neighborhood right now? There's things you become accustomed to, and I'm not saying you should grow accustomed to that. It's just funny. I mean, they'll blow off a train horn in my neighborhood. I don't even notice it because it's just the background noise that's always in my neighborhood, So anyway, we got any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Next up, Mayor, kind of environmental related, but also merging
You're in the hot
into
seat today,
police.
Mr. Novak. He'll go like 4 or 5
It's kind of a
mayor's
mix.
nights.
Kind of a mix.
Okay.
Mainly police, I think. Concerned about speeding on Calumet by Wolf Lake, the school zone. all the way around to the toll road. Wildlife birds and migrating birds are getting run over. Can there be more police patrol or speed cameras?
I'm going to pass Ron's question off to the chief of police on that one. Hey, chief.
Okay, hi. We are not allowed to change the signage on state roads. We don't have that purview. We can make a request. Generally isn't received in a very good atmosphere, to be honest with you. They do their own studies. We do have Dean goes to fight for us once in a while on these issues, and we've had a few victories. But as a general rule, the state decides what they feel is best for the state, and they put up the signs and they put up the signals, and I would petition them directly. I would recommend that. But as the mayor just said, don't not talk to us, because Dean is an advocate and he helps us resolve traffic issues with the state as well. So when you get that, if that could actually go to I and Dean, we will address the state. I'll have Pat Vicari, our our lieutenant of traffic, address that as well.
Good.
Also, in regards to speeding, Chief, any possibility to put speed bumps around Clark on Davis, Stanton, 119th and 120th?
I can answer this one.
Easy.
They're illegal in Indiana, which is, don't tell that to the guy in Whiting that's got one in his alley, but they're illegal in Indiana. You can't put them on the residential streets, which makes no sense to me, being honest with you, because I think we could use them in a few places. And I know as soon as we get across the border, they use them in residential areas for speed control all the time. Makes no sense to me, but doesn't make sense that we blow off fireworks either. There's a lot that doesn't make sense to me, but that's one of them. Dean, can you back me up on that?
Absolutely, Mayor.
Yeah. All right.
With all the problems at Flicks in Hessville, is it possible if it will close before it turns into a Brothers 2?
Okay. Chief, Flicks in Hessville had a shooting recently, which...
We are all over it. We have several people in custody. In 2017, we had a problem at the bar there, and we were all over it then. We put so much pressure on them, they literally closed their doors for almost a year. Then they very slowly started to open back up. We've monitored their activity there. Then they had a lot of trouble there. The bar across the street isn't much better. We've been on them too. We've been in contact. I had excise in the office yesterday. We're gonna providing files to them Friday. And they're going to try to petition their license before it becomes due, which is November of next year. So we're at a good time to act, because the closer we are to them getting their new license, the harder it is to go after them. So we need the time. We need to have the petitions have to be there before the hearing to renew. So we're in a good place right now. I'll tell you, matter of factly, I'm very unhappy with them. The owners have not instituted safety changes that I have documented in writing that they do. They were obviously not in use the night of the shooting, or it would have helped us with our investigation. They're not very forthcoming and cooperative, in my opinion. They're not good neighbors, so we'll be going after them aggressively.
You know, we have experience when it comes to shutting down problem bars, and it always starts off, unfortunately, with some type of crime. That's usually what draws attention to them, or maybe it's a series of incidents that's negative for the neighborhood, and we're advocates for the neighborhood at all times. So when the chief shows up and he gives them some type of formal letter that recommends that you institute the following procedures, you'll see a lot of bars that institute the following procedures when they get the chief's letters. That's usually what you should do. It's like our recommendation. If they don't, it's usually, we don't really have a lot of patience. And we had an incident in 2017. It was a similar type of issue. It was embarrassing. It was a shooting, right? And the chief gave the recommendations. It doesn't sound like the recommendations were followed up on. But we got to be careful when it comes to situations like this too, because if we do it out of order, we end up getting sued, and it costs all of us. So I have really smart lawyers that work for our city, and we're doing it the right way so that they either cooperate with us and run a safe establishment, or they're not going to be in business. We're going to do everything we can to knock them out of business. That's our job. There's plenty of bars in Hammond, by the way. If we have one less bar, I'm not going to lose a moment's sleep for that. We got plenty. So any follow-up questions on this? We've had situations across the city. McTaverns was Sebastian's. What others? I know there's plenty. I just can't think of them. Which one? La Rosa's. Dang, that's going way back. Copper Penny. There you go. Brothers 2. See. What? Estrella's. So we're starting to Thanks, Kelly. Just happened to be there. I told you there was a lot. But by the way, none of those resulted in litigation because we did it the right way. So we're trying to do this the right way and let them hang themselves. And when they hang themselves, it's easy. I mean, this is their investment. I imagine they got a lot of money wrapped up in this bar. I'm sure they want to get their money out of it. And if they do it the wrong way, we're going to put them out of business. And it sounds like they're hanging themselves. It flicks. I have no problem with it. I don't go to bars. Let's close it down. I don't care. So I'm not going to lose a moment's sleep. So if they can't do it the right way, then they're going to go out of business. So this is usually when I get myself in trouble. I start going off script. So anyway.
Okay, moving up to code enforcement, Mayor.
Excellent.
What can be done in regards to a habitual offender as far as their lawn is concerned?
Good question. Jaime, before you jump in, I'm going to explain the process again. And I know one thing we're trying to do is shorten this process, but let's say it's April and you know this house never mows their lawn, or maybe it's abandoned, right? And you see the lawn growing, the sun's finally coming out, and that lawn's taken off. You call up the mayor's office. Mayor, my neighbor hasn't mowed their lawn. Can you get somebody out here and mow it? We can't in April. What we have to do in April is go to court, set up a court date, show up in court. Code enforcement comes in and says the house is abandoned. These are pictures. We put the big green sticker on the front. Nobody responded. We get a court order, says you can cut it, then we cut it. That could be a month. And in the meantime, you're going, Mayor McDermott blew me off. I called his office and I told him about our neighbor, and now the lawn's 3 feet tall and they still haven't cut it. That's a problem for us because it's a perception that we're not doing our jobs when we are. If you see the big green sticker, and it's pretty big green sticker, we know about it and we're in the process. Now, Jaime, could you take over from here? And I know you guys are working on that time period as well.
Yes, that's exactly correct. So we usually send out a citation that could take at minimum 3 weeks. With the judge currently, she requires an OTA, which is order to appear. So that can set it out another 3 to 4 weeks. So we're talking a minimum of a month and a half to 2 months before we can actually have a vendor go out on these vacant lots or abandoned houses to actually cut the grass and weeds. And do any outside maintenance, vegetation-wise.
We can't go on private property, or else, we're gonna have a Chicago type of situation. So we can't. But once you get the first order to cut, you could do it the rest of the season, though,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. And we cut it. We usually have 4 to 5 vendors that we work with, and they usually cut it every 3 to 4 weeks. Up until about October-ish, November, just depending on how the season goes. So luckily this year time was on our side, and we actually kind of started a little bit late, so that was good for us. We didn't have to spend as much money. Kelly has something to say.
I believe I had a conversation about the situation on Facebook before I got here. Happy to say the one house was actually cited, and on a 6-month supervision, that court case will be brought back up. They will be fined and then proceed from there as far as how they're going to maintain and take care of the property. The other property on the southern end of the street is going to be cited. They were warned, tried to maintain the property, and then are not doing a very good job of it. Some issues with the structure and the paint and those types of things. So they're going to be cited and they'll be in court.
Thanks, Kelly. The gentleman over here had a great point he just brought up. He said, if it was my next door neighbor, I'd cut the grass. And that's true, and I appreciate that. I did hear you, but the thing is, if you're gonna cut your neighbor's grass, and that's a great neighbor thing to do, make sure we know about it though, so we can get the green sticker on the building. So while we're going to court, if you wanna cut your neighbor's grass, God bless. But don't just cut your neighbor's grass in April and then you're going to be cutting it all summer. You know what I'm saying? So make sure we know about it if you're going to cut the neighbor's grass.
That's actually happened to us quite a bit, where we won't get any issue until middle of July or August, and this grass is 2 feet tall. Well, it's been cut before, and we find out the neighbor was like, "Well, hey, I cut it." Well, that's great, but we don't know about it.
You're signing yourself up for a whole summer.
Right, exactly. So we do appreciate that, but do please let us know if there's a vacant house next to you, if we don't know about it already. Right. By this time of the season, of course, we know, we pretty much know every vacant house and property in this city, which is
you do. I mean, after all you have each, Jaime has 6 people report to him, 1 person for each district. and they know their district like the back of their hands by now, right?
Right, yeah, it is.
So we have a good idea. And if you call up and you're like, yeah, the house is still abandoned, then we can get on it earlier in the season, right?
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And we actually work, we have our list for next season. We're always ready for next season. That doesn't mean there's not going to be any new houses that aren't going to be vacant next season. But then there's also a lot of properties that were bought on tax sale, a lot of houses that were bought by investors or new homeowners and fixed up. So that's great as well. But as the mayor said earlier, we are trying to work to streamline this to where we have it cut quicker, fines are out, and we try to keep a beautiful city.
For those of you that are sitting there saying, wow, I didn't know I can get my grass cut for free by the city, I want to point out that this cut is not a cheap cut. It's like $150 each shot or something like that.
Contract fees are added to. There's a fine, typically a default judgment, and then when we record twice a year at the end of August and end of October. There's a $200 service fee for doing that. So
we attach liens to the properties. So each time we cut, it's an expensive cut, and then we lien the property. We get our money back eventually. Eventually that property is going to sell, and when it does sell, you have to make all the liens good as well. So we will get paid eventually, once the property turns over. So thank you very much. Great question. Any follow-ups on that? We pretty much covered that. Wow, look at that. 2 follow-ups. Good. Hi.
Just a quick question. Is there, as far as getting the grass cut, is there any help for like an elderly person that cannot get out and cut their grass, or do they have to get fined and go through all that when they are not able to get out?
Yeah, that's a problem because
Is there any help?
not that I've heard of situations like.
They're Greater Hammond
Yeah.
does give a certain amount of properties each year. You have to sign up with them. I don't have their number offhand, but I can look it up. 932-4800. So they do help out, a certain amount of people per year. So if you want to get added to the list, I guess that list does go pretty quickly. But they do give us a call. We try to work with them. They do give us a call when there are openings, and we kind of usually tell our inspectors, hey, if there's a property that you're green tagging a lot, that an elderly person's living there, give it to us. We'll give it to Greater Hammond. And see
Jaime,
if
let me
they
ask
can
you a
help out.
question though.
Yeah.
Out of the properties you're green tagging, 90% of them vacant, or is there a lot of properties you're green tagging where families are living there?
No, yeah, a lot of the properties that we are green tagging are not vacant.
Really? That is horrible.
But a lot of them also are alley line grass. That
Right.
You'll cut your backyard grass, but you'll just forget that alley line. So it's kind of
yeah.
you may not always see that green tag. A lot of times we'll tag the garbage can so as to avoid the neighbors seeing that so-and-so is not, is being lazy and not taking care of their property.
Yeah.
Well, they go to take out the garbage, they'll hit it, and then we follow up to 10 days. If they don't take care of it at that point, then
Right.
a citation will be issued. So
I know the
it's a
township
little-
has situations like this, especially when it snows, that they have, like the Clark High School football team would go out there and shovel driveways for senior. I hear about programs like that a lot, but, for us to go on city property is a big no-no in city government, so we really are barred in a lot of ways, but that's a good question. I know we had a follow-up over here as well. Hi, ma'am.
Hey, does that include owner-occupied homes? And what's the rule on their hedges around their house? They're like way overgrown.
Gotcha. I'm going to go home and cut my alleyway and my hedges when I get done with mayor's night.
We've had that issue before, Mayor.
I'm starting to sweat up here.
As far as height, they need to be trimmed in a manner where visibility is always an issue. I look at it as if a police officer is in the front or the back of the house. I want to be able to have a clear head height visibility through the yard. Owner-occupied or rental property makes no difference. The standard is the same. A lot of people are not very thorough in weed whacking, and that's always an issue too. Or weeds growing through bushes. Landscaping is a matter of choice. When it gets to be an issue where visibility or safety is a concern or rodents are a concern, then they can be cited or tagged for that.
Thanks. Any other follow-ups? All right. I want to, before we get to the next question, I want to thank another councilman that just walked in. He is Hammond's 2nd District Councilman Pete Torres. Thank you very much, Councilman Torres. And I'd like to introduce somebody that's going to be our next councilwoman January 1st, as long as we do our job and get her elected. She's a great candidate. She's our Katrina Alexander. Thank you very much. Good to see you, Katrina. Thanks for showing up. All right, how we doing on questions, Donna?
We're doing well, Mayor. Economic development up next.
Excellent.
Any
Hi.
progress with
We
the
got
Walmart?
Ann Anderson here from Economic Development. Want to
Hi,
grab the
Ann.
microphone?
Grab the mic. Any progress with the Walmart site, and did we sell that to Ford or Lear? The Walmart
We're
building?
talking Walmart on 65th.
Yes.
Yes, no, it is privately owned by a developer. It is not city-owned. We are working with the developer now. We have some things, some ideas. We want to make sure that the development at that former Walmart is very complementary to what's going on with the success of the Sportsplex. So we want to be very careful and talk to the interested parties that are interested in opening up something there.
And
so stay tuned.
Our primary concern right now is the former Carson's, right?
That's
It's coming down right now.
It is.
Do you know when that's supposed to be done?
By the end of December.
By the end of December, that'll be clear. We have RFPs right now.
We do.
How many? 5 or 6 that people submitted?
4.
4?
Yep.
Where people are basically asking us for the ability to build their dream there.
Mhm.
And it's our job to evaluate the proposals. We may love all of them, we may not like any of them. Maybe we would like one more than the others, but they want participation, I'm sure, from the city so that we can work together and make something that's complementary to our Sportsplex, which is a gem. It's bringing in new people to our city all the time, and I think that we're onto something in that part of our city right now. I think that Sportsplex is the driver. We're starting to see things turn around. So when I get questions about the Walmart, I understand why people are wondering what's going to happen there, but we got to do a job at Carson's, and once we do our job the right way there, we're going to be sitting on a gold mine with the Walmart. So I think the worst thing we could do right now is sell out cheap. You know, when you look over there at Oxbow and at Kennedy and 8094, we stuck to our standards through thick and thin, and now we have 2 office complexes over there. We have 2 hotels, a BW3, a brewery, and other things coming, right?
Buffalo Wild Wings. Yeah, and some more development coming.
Right.
Yep.
I think it's a couple more restaurants, if I remember correctly.
We're hoping so, yes. That would be wonderful.
As long as we stick to our guns, we could do well. And I think that the Sportsplex is going to be a good driver for that part of the boulevard. So, any questions on this? All right.
What is the status of the property from Vogels to 5 Points? Is it ever going to be developed?
Good question. Vogels to 5 Point, right over here. Phil? Good. Phil was formerly Planning and Development Coordinator.
Yes, so the same group that owns the area that we consider the Marina Development Area, which is where the Walmart is, the Dunkin' Donuts, the new Starbucks that's being built right now, IHOP, so on. They've always considered the Vogel site as their phase 2. They're just completing, I guess, what we'd consider phase 1. You see the Starbucks going up now. A lot of the storefronts have been filled at this point. There might be 1 or 2 smaller projects that still could happen over there. But I would say the conversation is probably going to move to the Vogel site now. So there's nothing specific that they've come to us and said this is what we're doing. But I have a feeling we'll be having that conversation with them very soon.
We could do, but there's no doubt we could do better. The smoke shop makes me crazy when I drive by it. That whole area over there needs a facelift. I understand totally where this question's coming from. And when, obviously I'm proud of my track record as mayor, but nobody's perfect. And I think we could have done better. And hopefully what happens with the marine development spills over to 5 Points. Believe me, I know what you're talking about. We could definitely do better, and we will do better. I think what's going on over there, we just got another Starbucks in the city, our second. I think that once we start doing our job over there, and if you want to get real technical, I think we can do better all the way down to 119th. But that's a big job, costs a lot of money. We could do better, and that should be our goal. Why stop at 5 Points? Let's just keep going, and complement what's going on in Whiting with that part of our city. So we got good opportunities up here. So,
And Mayor, just to tie into what you're saying, you know, when I was in planning and development, there was a time we were reaching out to Starbucks and they basically laughed at us.
they did.
You know, and we're not coming to Hammond. And here we are. We now have our second one that's going up, and it's because we're becoming that corridor that's attractive to those types of developments. So you're going to see stuff happen there in the future. It takes time, and you got to build up to it. I think we're doing it.
Yeah. Questions? Yeah. Here, let's wait for a microphone if you don't mind.
It depends. I think you're talking about, okay, so there's multiple storefront buildings.
The one right by the AT&T store, right.
Yeah. I don't know the specific store names in the one, but the one building is completely filled. And then there's a smaller building, I think, where maybe the Dunkin' Donuts is, and there's another unit right next to it that's filled. The one you're speaking of, I guess, would be the farthest west. Is that the one you're talking about? So I'm sure they are still working on filling that building, but again, you know, it takes time. And when you see a Starbucks come in, it's usually a good sign. It means that those types of franchises are finally seeing that this area can be successful for them. And when a Starbucks comes in, all of a sudden you'll see other things pop up around it. Just like up north, across the street from Cabela's, we had a very similar situation. There were 2 empty parcels across from Cabela's on either side of the White Castle. All of a sudden, we had the Starbucks building came in, and I know there's Sharks in there, and there's another building as well. Now we have another retail building that just built on the north side of the White Castle, and the property on the south side was just purchased and is going to be developed. So it's a good thing to see the Starbucks come in. There's no doubt we still have work to do. And, you know, we don't own the property. All we do is we work as facilitators with the developer to try and help promote the site and help them, you know, get that big restaurant or retail that residents in this area will be proud of. But I think there's a lot of positives that we're seeing that we're heading the right direction.
Wait for the microphone, Sharon.
With everything going on with the Starbucks, what's going on across the street?
You're talking down south?
They took down that gas station.
Yeah. You're talking down by Cabela's, right?
Yeah, no, right, that's the
Oh.
new Starbucks.
Okay. Right. And could you grab a microphone? Yeah.
I believe they're rebuilt. Is that the gas station that they are rebuilding to bring it up to more modern standards that we see in other communities? So they're rebuilding it.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. I know there's a lot of restrictions on there too. As far as fireworks, I wish Kevin was here right now. He is? Where is he? Hey, corporate counsel, like, we could use you right now. Hi, Kev. Kevin, could you talk about it? I know you had a lot to do with that deal.
Good evening, Mayor. Hide in the back.
Yeah, hey, Kev. I know that there's a lot of restrictions on that property with the fireworks and stuff like that. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Are you talking about the property there off of the boulevard?
Yeah.
In the or across from?
No, we're talking like up north, up by the Starbucks up north.
Yeah, so the way that's working right now is that the city has been in negotiations with the developer to make sure that there is only that there stays one fireworks stand, because part of the gas stations that they own on the other side of the street across from the development don't have the restrictions on them that the ones inside the development have. So what the mayor has instructed us to do is to ensure that whatever agreement we make with that developer, that we still only allow them to have one fireworks stand in that area. So what we're trying to do is to have them improve the gas station that is currently unimproved. And the numbers up there always confuse me. I don't know if Brian's around. Brian Pullen knows these by heart. But I don't know if Brian's here. But anyway, the one on the other side of the street that's not developed, that's going to be redeveloped in a couple years, and we're going to allow them to only have one fireworks stand. Also, they've agreed no other smoke shops, no other no adult uses, and also to keep them with no liquor in those areas. The only way they would be allowed to have beer is if the state allows cold beer sales at gas stations, which it doesn't currently.
That's what I was looking for.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure, Mayor.
That's where I wanted to go. I remember getting this. A lot of people talk to me all day long. One of the troubles about being mayor is trying to remember where you heard it. But I know I heard this. I just trying to remember where. And I know Kevin was a lawyer that was working on that case. So hopefully we answered your question, sir. Okay, any other questions on economic development, sounds like?
So for the Vogel's parking lot,
Mhm.
when the developer decides what it is that they want to plan
Right.
to do, which I know who the developer is.
Right.
I think we all know.
Right, Lukoil.
Yeah, exactly. Will you be able to give us transparency to the First District community?
What's that, I'm sorry?
Would you be able to give us transparency to the First District community
We're-
on
we're-
what their plans are?
Yeah, like, I talk about everything, ma'am. Like, one of my positives and big negatives is I talk about everything.
You know, a nice surprise,
Ma'am.
maybe a Dunkin' Donuts is coming, but we can't tell the public, you know.
No.
Would it?
I talk way before I'm supposed to talk. I do. Like, I'll tell you what it is, and if we don't like it, we'll fight it tooth and nail along with you, okay? I've heard about, like, hotels being interested in that piece of property, being honest with you. Yeah, and I think as long as it worked with the neighborhood, we can make it so that it's beneficial for both sides. It's a big enough footprint, too. I'd be totally, by the way, hotels are great for the community as far as for the investment. That helps all of us. It's like a $10 million investment into the, but I'd love to see something like that go. The thing about the Vogel's property is a big footprint, which is great opportunities, okay? And whatever, you know, I've been mayor 15 years, and since I've been mayor, they built 2 gas stations since I've been mayor, and one of them is under construction right now, okay? So I'm not big on stuff like that. I'd like to see investment. Like, if somebody wanted to build a hotel, I'd be all ears. Somebody wants to put another restaurant there, I'd be all ears. But I promise you, whatever it is, I'll talk about it before my people are comfortable with me talking about it, okay? Because I'm all about letting the neighborhood know what's going on, okay? And I always will be. Thank you. It's a great opportunity, though. And I think if we do it right at Vogel's, then we go down to the smoke shop and we could do it right there. And before you know it, we're all the way down to 5 Points with relatively brand new development. And then we could start taking that next step, start working our way up towards 119th. But it won't be cheap, but it could be done. We just got to focus on it. All right, another question?
We've got some internet questions, Mayor. If you want to tackle those, it's a wide
Whoa.
variety.
I don't want to read them because they call me names on there too, so I'll let you read them.
The first question is, did Potash add additional train traffic through Hammond?
Potash? Yeah, it added additional train traffic through Hammond. It added a lot of new jobs at the IHB also. The thing about the Potash deal, which was done in 2008, was it? 10? Okay. That deal was a humongous investment in Hammond. 70 million, if I remember correctly. We came in with about 10% for their incentive package. We knew that it was a big deal. It's a big company. We knew it was a huge investment, which gives us other opportunities to develop around it. The thing we knew that Potash wasn't going to have a lot of hires themselves because it's relatively automated. It's not like they're in there shoveling potash every day. They have machines that do it for them, right? So once it was built, that it would be relatively few jobs, permanent jobs at that location. But what it did was created 150 to 200 in IHB employees, if I remember correctly. Was that the
Other railroad companies around.
I thought it was mostly IHB though, right?
Yeah. At the time that the project happened, IHB had a lot of employees that they had furloughed because they weren't using them any longer.
Right.
So when Potash came in, we had IHB, we had Norfolk Southern, we had CSX, we had all these groups that met with us and said, this is going to add X amount of employees if Potash moves here. So it wasn't the Potash project, it was all the other companies that were using that facility as well.
So when the person on the internet asked the question, did it increase train traffic in Hammond? I have to say honestly, yes. But it also increased jobs in Hammond. And by the way, we have a lot of good, I hear a lot of people that are predicting Hammond's demise every second of every day, and they're so happy whenever something bad happens in Hammond. There's that element out there. But let me tell you, Hammond's got a lot of great things going for it as well, all right? I think the South Shore Rail expansion is a couple $100 million they're spending in our city. I think that's gonna be good for us, all right? Our location to Chicago is a positive and a negative. It's a positive in gaming. It's a positive in a lot of ways because a lot of our residents live there, but it's also a negative because we get some crime that comes over also. One of our assets, gaming, water, we're the kings of water in Northwest Indiana. Hammond, it's beautiful, and rail. These are humongous opportunities. These are things that we could bank our future on. So a lot of people think we're hanging our hat on gaming. We're good at gaming. We got the best casino outside of Las Vegas right here in the First District. we got a lot of things going for us in Hammond. Don't let them tell you otherwise. Water and rail, so I think where we've failed as a country is Congress isn't helping us enough when it comes to rail. I think we could do things like build more bridges instead of like one bridge in 30 years. We could use 10 bridges in 30 years. It'd be a lot better in our city. But so anyway, the data center, thank you, right here in the 1st District. So anyway, I guess to answer that question, yes, we increased rail traffic when we brought in potash, but we brought in a $70 million investment also. See, the thing about those internet questions, there's always a behind story to it. So what else we got, Donna?
What's the plan for the 3 elementary schools that closed?
Well, the simple answer to this is I'm not sure, because I'm the mayor, and the mayors aren't in charge of schools, okay? Talking to the schools, I know that they were always interested in, if we wanted the piece of property, they would give them to us. I'll be honest, I don't see too many uses for us to have those properties right now. They're not really marketable locations of the city where the schools they shut down. Now, I'm not sure, and I'm not here to talk about Clark High School. I know what's being talked about. I'm not sure what decisions are being made because I have nothing to do with it, okay? But there's tremendous opportunities with that location as opposed to the ones that they shut down. Okay, Clark High School is marketable. Not, it's in a marketable, this is a great part of our city. So I'm not, and of course everybody in here wants to see Clark stay a high school forever, I get it. And this is something that you're gonna have to take up with your school board, and you should show up to their meetings and let them know how you feel. But if Clark High School was ever not a high school, I think the city of Hammond would jump all over it. And I'm not encouraging them to do it, but we could do things with Clark High School, particularly where they play football and soccer and softball. That's a hugely marketable area over there. We could build a whole new neighborhood over there, and we've done it. People are buying houses in this part of our city. We could build a whole new neighborhood back there with brand new houses. I mean, so there's some parts, when the school city decides to shut down a school, yeah, if we could do something with it, like Riley School. Remember where Riley School was? When I took over as mayor, Riley School was an empty school, and there was a lot of concern in that neighborhood about Riley School. Was that the one? That was the one where Optimus Park is, right? Thank goodness. I was like, that would have really messed up the joke. We bought it, demolished it, and built Optimus Park there. And 8 years later, we were hosting the Cal Ripken World Series at that location. So it would really depend on the location. I guess that's a long-winded answer. All right, what else you got, Donna?
Do you know what's going on with eastbound 94? Work seems to have stopped, and it's a mess.
What's your question, engineer?
So 8094 eastbound, the on-ramp at Kennedy, that might be what they're talking about. So southbound Kennedy to eastbound 8094. That came up on the
that's what they're talking
radio
about.
show.
Southbound Kennedy
on
going on to
Friday.
eastbound 8094, the on-ramp there. There you go.
So I want to say probably 6 weeks ago, I got a call from NDOT saying that on-ramp was going to be closed for quite a bit longer. While they were in the midst of doing some repair work, part of their plan is they pump grout underneath the roadway and wait till it builds up pressure. Well, they couldn't get the pressure to build up. They put 2 yards of grout underneath the pavement, nothing. 10 yards of grout underneath pavement, nothing. So they cut a hole in the approach right before the on-ramp bridge as it goes over Kennedy, and they found a 20-foot wide, 20-foot long by 24-foot deep hole underneath that on-ramp approach, which is basically unsupported roadway as they approach. And so they came to us to talk to us about what could have been the problem. We worked with sewer maintenance. They televised the sewer underneath 8094 on-ramp, and they found that back in 98, I want to say, they had driven a piling through the side of the sewer, and it exposed the earth underneath that bridge approach, and so they were losing sand underneath there. So they're working to resolve that problem now, and they're also working to backfill that approach, and I would expect another 4 weeks left. I haven't heard specifically from NDOT when they expect that to reopen, but they're going to get that backfilled and restored, and then we're working with Jack's department to get that that sewer line fixed so it won't undermine that roadway
Cool.
any longer.
Thank you, Dean.
So that's,
We just assumed that was the question. I assumed that was the question. I think that was a good assumption. So, thank you.
Mayor, there's a vacant house next to me with a coyote living in the shed. Who do I contact?
You know, I've been mayor a long time. That's the first time I've ever been asked that question. I have neighbors with foxes living in the shed. Yeah, they're cute. Who wants to handle that one? Chief. Yeah. Animal control works for the Hammond Police Department, which makes sense. It used to be their own independent department, and then we merged it into PD because most often in a situation where you find a coyote in a shed, I'm going to call the police, right?
Yeah.
And then you guys are out there like, what the hell do I do? There's a coyote in the shed. I'm a cop, right?
Yeah, to be honest,
Then you call animal control.
animal control is doing great, but that is wildlife. That falls under DNR. We do not normally approach wildlife. Our officers, unfortunately, when a raccoon is rabid and sick and endangering the public, we will take action there and we'll dispatch the animal humanely. But if you simply have wildlife got into a structure, we'll give animal control a call. We'll make sure the proper people are notified and we will take care of it. And but probably DNR may have to respond and we'll work with them to get some traps out there or something.
Yeah, coyote. I wouldn't be cool with that, but the foxes were cute. I think they moved out. All right.
The boat ramp at Wolf Lake is often closed due to pavilion events. Is it possible to move the ramp somewhere else?
Wow, good question. Port Authority thought they would get by without a question, didn't they, Mylan?
No, I know. I knew eventually we'd be asked, Mayor, something. That is a good question. Now, don't forget, since we did a lot of improvements around Wolf Lake, we put a bike path just about everywhere around Wolf Lake that we possibly can, as close to the shoreline as possible. We do let folks carry their boats if they're using kayaks or canoes over the bike trail. We're in the process of trying to look at where we can put in another ramp. We're not sure right now where that can happen. We do understand a number of times we do close down for special events at Wolf Lake. One of the best things is, Mayor, we don't charge anyone to launch at Wolf Lake. So
I know.
It's free.
That's
So,
nice.
Even if you're from Illinois or Wisconsin or Michigan.
Because we're good neighbors. That's why.
We are good neighbors, yes.
Mhm.
And we want more people to come to
Right.
Wolf Lake. So I wish I had an answer for that, but we'll look into that.
We don't
Thank you.
have, I mean, there's pavilion events. I mean, they're not frequent. I mean,
Maybe once.
during Fest, it's like 5
Oh,
days. I
yeah,
get that, right?
Exactly. So, like, we have coming up the Race to the Rescue this Sunday.
Yeah,
Right?
that
So the
always-
ramp's going to be closed for a while.
Yeah, true story.
Yep. So will Calumet Avenue for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. You're
So
right.
it's-
Race to
it's
the
a-
rescue.
Yep.
Did we send out the good neighbor stuff?
It's going out right now.
Excellent. Gary's like runs out. Okay. All right.
We do have a number of signs, the digital electronic signs posted, yeah. So we'll do that.
All proceeds benefit Hammond Police Fire charities.
Yes.
So it's a great event. We do it right around 9/11 every year, called Race to the Rescue. So it's a 5K.
5K to 9K. That
and
starts at
9K.
8 o'clock.
Run, walk.
Yes.
And then that time it starts at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
And it's basically what, just around Wolf Lake. You're not
The
shutting down
9K, the
Calumet for
9K
that
goes
one.
around Wolf, and then the 5K will go out to Forsyth and back.
Okay. So you're not shutting the streets down. And then at 10
Not that.
o'clock for 1
10
hour?
o'clock.
For an hour.
And then sporadic anyway, because as you
Yeah.
race, right? You
Right.
race in groups.
Like the whole group goes by and then I'm going by 5 minutes later.
No, you're not. You're up there with them.
Right.
But it's sporadic closures of Calumet. The
Okay.
police, if you get to 119th and Calumet, they'll let you through.
Gotcha. All right. So that's coming up this weekend. Sunday, right?
Sunday, yes.
All right. I'll be there.
Rain or shine.
Gotcha.
Okay.
How's business here, Nicole?
Oh, very well.
Any
We're
spring
up.
special or any fall specials going?
Starting October 1st, fall rates kick in. Weekdays $38, weekends $42.
I know it's sort of a crummy year at the beginning as far as weather, right?
We're up.
We're up now?
Yeah.
See, we got a horrible start too,
Yeah,
right?
it's a terrible start, but it's been amazing.
Yeah?
Busy.
Awesome.
Very busy. And then we have our annual Chili Open, October 19th, way earlier this year.
Yeah.
No snow for me, buddy. So.
You never know, October 19th. Yeah, it's too early for snow. It's never nice weather, though.
Well, November 9th was way too late. So
Yeah.
We moved.
Awesome. How many boats do we have in the marina this year, Mylan? I went there today. It looked pretty full.
Yeah, it's pretty good. About 450.
Okay.
So that's
We're getting back.
half. We're getting there.
Yeah.
We're getting back, yeah.
Okay.
Real quick,
Yeah.
something real special is happening here at Lost Marsh.
Really?
Yeah. Lost Marsh is in the final stages of becoming a silver certified signature sanctuary by the Audubon International.
Say that again.
Okay, Lost Marsh is in the final stages of becoming a silver certified signature sanctuary by the Audubon International.
I had to
which
do that in speech class. Silver certified silver sanctuary.
Thank you. Which means the course has worked to ensure a high degree of environmental quality for both people and wildlife. It's really impressive, and we're thrilled.
You'll see some animals on the Lost Marsh. Of course, you'll see deer, but you'll
all
see
the time.
fox and
Coyotes.
right?
Yep. Geese,
Right?
Mayor,
Saw-
geese.
You see eagle every once in a while? A lot
Yeah,
of
we do.
geese.
A lot of
Lot of geese.
A
Yeah,
lot of
geese are,
and
yeah.
eagles, yeah.
See eagle every once in a while, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's always a pair, but their guidelines are very strict.
Good job.
So this is actually, thanks to Larry Parducci, this is why.
Good job, Larry
He did
Parducci.
great, he did a great job.
I'm going to pass off for a commercial here. We're still taking questions, by the way. This is Lakeisha Girder. She's our assistant city planner. She wants to talk to you about the census, which is coming next year. And it's super important that all of us are counted accurately. Everybody in our city represents, if I remember, like $30,000 each or something crazy like that. It's like each person that we count is good for our city to get money back from the federal government. So Lakeisha, could you go ahead and do that little commercial?
Good evening, everyone. I just want to let everyone know that Census Day is April 1st, 2020. It's also April Fool's Day, but it is actually Census Day as well. Hammond has the highest population in Northwest Indiana. I believe we're around 80,700 people. And so we aim to continue to be the highest populated city in Northwest Indiana. Surveys will be mailed out in March 2020. You will have the option to fill them out via paper, or you can go online and do them as well. If you have any more questions, you can go to census.gov, and they have all types of webinars and information on how you can be counted.
Thank you, Lakeisha. And another thing about the census is, for a lot of you that are looking for part-time work, this is a good time to pick up part-time work for the federal government. They're literally hiring. You can work as much or as little as you want for the U.S. Census. So I know that there's hiring opportunities coming up. I was at a conference with mayors this week, and they were talking about the census and how many people from the local community they hire. They want Hammond residents to help count Hammond. So if you're interested in that, I would go on the census, uscensus.gov, whatever it is. So, all right. How we doing, Donna? We got more questions?
Good, we've got like 3 more, Mayor.
Okay.
One of them, you might not know the answer to, but can we get some of the wood they're cutting down behind Niagara LaSalle?
You're right. I don't know the answer to that. Is it, when you say they, is it Niagara LaSalle that's cutting it down?
Don't know.
Is there anybody? Marty? That's us. Oh, that's you cutting it down? That's the sanitary district. Excellent. This is Marty Wilgus, head of the sanitary district. He was almost the chairman of the South Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau one time too. So.
Came close. Boy, it was close.
Oh
Man,
votes
one
shy.
vote.
Spiros blocked you.
We're clearing that. We bought that railroad property. It's the northern part adjacent to our north end of the district. And the bike path is going into that section, and then the further expansion of the district. So right now we're having it cleared out. Our deal with the folks who are clearing it out is that a part of the bid that they put in, they get all the wood. So unfortunately, as much as I would like to offer that to people to come and get, they actually
So
are
the
taking
price
what they
for
want.
cutting it was a lot cheaper than it would have been because you agreed to give them the product.
That is correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Good answer.
Thank you.
All right. Now I can see why. You were number
I
two.
should have been. Yeah.
All right. Let's go.
I'm not sure what this is, Mayor, but I'll just read it and we'll sort it out.
All right.
Why is it so extreme a fine for a late rental sticker with no first-time break? It only costs $10, but $1,000 if late.
Oh, yeah. Good question. Kevin Smith. He's back there watching the Bears game. Oh, it's tomorrow. Never mind. Hey, Kev. Did you hear that
Hello,
question?
Mayor. I did.
Kevin, the reason I go straight to him is we've been on a journey when it comes to rental registration and the inspections department. We used to have this department completely paid for by inspection fees, which was so smart. It was good government because, quite frankly, homeowners aren't the bane of their existence. Homeowners usually mow their lawn. Homeowners usually take care of their home. Their primary problem area, the sweet spot, so to speak, is abandoned houses, landlord-owned properties. So we said, why don't we have them pay for their own department? We wouldn't have to have this department if it wasn't for these problem properties. And we charged $80?
$80.
Once a year to each rental property in our city. And that $80 fee added up, funded the whole department. It didn't cost the taxpayers a penny. It was so smart that the state government got involved and made it illegal. Another thing we're talking about with the state. They got involved, literally, their whole goal in life was to defeat that ordinance and cap us at $5, which resulted in litigation, resulted in a special law constitutionality issue that we won, went to the Indiana Supreme Court. So we've been on a journey when it comes to this, and Kevin's been one of the lawyers involved from the beginning. So Kevin, can you please answer this question?
Yes, Mayor, I'd be happy to, and you're absolutely correct. It's been a long journey. I was witness to the mayor fighting this probably a good, Mayor, 4 or 5 legislative sessions.
It was the target of the entire supermajority 2 years in a row, and the first year we beat them, and the second year they got us.
The apartment lobby was behind that mostly, of which Representative Speedy was a proponent of this legislation that basically targeted Hammond. It originally targeted Bloomington, Lafayette, and Hammond, and then they carved out Bloomington, Lafayette, leaving only Hammond really affected by it.
A state law that only dealt with Hammond. That was their whole existence. We're going to defeat Hammond's ordinance. And what was our ordinance doing? Taking the problem properties and making them pay for this department that has to inspect problem properties.
And a little more background on that. The background was that, if you remember when Governor Daniels cut a lot of the funding, he put the original caps in and said, it's okay, local areas, just go ahead and do it by a revenue-based approach.
Right.
And that's exactly what the mayor did. He said, okay, how are we going to fund this then? Now that the state's told us that we're going to have to cut, we're going to cut, and we're going to do it by revenue-based.
And Kevin's talking about the tax caps.
That's right.
By putting in the tax caps, they said, we're going to take millions of dollars from local government. They have, but $20 million a year from the city of Hammond in property tax revenue, which is good news for you, because you get a property tax break. And then Governor Daniels said, then if you lose it on the property taxes, then come up with creative ways to make that money back. So we said, thank you, Governor Daniels. We came up with a creative way to make $800,000 and take it off the backs of the taxpayers. No, can't do that.
Right, and so the mayor, basically the fight was on, and we kind of won the battle but lost the war. The state Supreme Court agreed with the mayor and the city's position that it was special legislation. So it said, okay, it's $5, it's unconstitutional, but we're not going to sever the $5 fee. So the $5 fee, now it doesn't only just apply to Hammond, but it also now applies to West Lafayette and Bloomington and everybody else. So I don't know how happy they are.
Instead of letting us charge what we wanted, they screwed everybody.
They did. And so the ordinance that is currently in effect, because the state law remains at $5, well, it's $5 now to register per unit. So I think the person who asked the question must have 2 units. And then if you are registered by April 15th, that's all it costs you. And I want to remind people, because if you go to the Board of Works meeting, I know Kelly and Jaime are there every week with me, but also our Board of Works is Jeff Long and Heather.
Kevin Margraf and Heather.
And Kevin Margraf.
And Heather's here. So.
Yeah, and Heather can tell you that every week she sees how many people with rental registrations, and we have to remind them, because it never fails. They said, I forgot I was the day before and I never made it up there. And we always remind them, hey, as of January 1st every year, you can come register your rental for $5. Please do so. So you're from January 1st to April 15th tax day to do it, and that avoids the $500 fine. There's a $500 fine if you miss it. You can appeal to the Board of Works, and she hears appeals along with the other 2 members, and they will listen to your story as to why you missed 4.5 months of not paying the $5. I mentioned that people say, it's $500 fine if you miss it. There's a lot of other things in the city that are more than $500 fine. Kelly can tell you there are some, and I'm sure this will come up, the Airbnb on Stanton Avenue, that was $2,500 a day in a fine. And the city collected over $10,000 from that person. Okay, so it's not, $500 may sound like a lot, but for certain things, and the rental registration is important, and Chief Doty can tell you this, and so can Chief Smith. When there's a fire or when there's an issue at a rental place, they want to know who lives there, who the insurance company is, And that's all on that rental registration form. So it's important.
Thank you. Heather?
And just to speak to the fine situation, we do hear appeals almost every week at the Board of Works, and typically we're going to look to our inspections department, we're going to look to PD, we're going to ask if there's any problems at the property, if it's been, you know, a kind of crime base, and we've had a lot of issues there, if we've had to do cut and cleans, and if you've had an appeal before. We don't want to see you there year after year. If you just forgot, if you got it, you know, just bought the rental property, someone just moved in, you know, you had a health issue, and this is your first time, and you're a good landlord, and your tenants aren't causing trouble, most likely we're going to waive it. But we don't want to see you come back year after year with the same kind of excuse.
Good question. We've been on a long journey with rental registrations, as you can see, and Kelly and Jaime have been with us through the whole thing. It was a very frustrating up and down, and a lot of my gray hair came from that legislation right there, quite frankly. So, do we have any other questions?
We have one more, Mayor.
Sure.
Thank you for the new bike bridge.
Oh, that's a great question. Let's go.
What can we expect on bike trails in the future?
Thanks. I'm really proud of the one we did up here at Wolf Lake. It's gorgeous. I mean, it's got to make you proud. And we're just about to cut the ribbon on one right by City Hall, more particularly right by the Central Firehouse. It connects Conkey, which is a dangerous crossway, a diagonal intersection, which is tough on a bike because you have to go diagonal to connect up the bike trail. So instead of doing that, and by the way, a lot of kids use that one from Hammond High School, a lot of kids that go over there to school of Maywood, a lot of kids in that whole area. Woodrow Wallace Elementary School is right there. So that is a great bike trail, opening up, Woodrow Wilson, excuse me, opening up, Dean, next week?
Yeah, well, technically we open Saturday.
Oh, yeah, I saw people taking pictures, by the way. We have some people violating the rules.
Yeah,
Just
so
saying.
it's safe to cross today because
I saw a truck on it last week. I figured I could take my bike across it.
Well, they were working on the expansion plate, so that
Right.
was probably not a good time to go over it.
Okay.
But I talked to the contractor this morning. It is passable. They don't want you on there now because they're working up there. Saturday, there's a big bike ride coming from Chicago all the way to New Buffalo. They're going to come over that bridge. So
Wow.
It'll be open Saturday, Sunday, ribbon cutting, 3 p.m. Tuesday.
Good. I think that, first off, I want to talk about bike trail bridges. That bike trail bridge was paid for 60, 70% federal?
Yeah, 66%, about a third.
If Hammond doesn't take that, we got that money through NERC, and we've been waiting for it for like 4 years. So you hear people that are like, oh, you should have paved my street instead of building that bike trail bridge. If we didn't get that federal 66%, it would have gone to Valpo or Chesterton or Michigan City. It would have gone someplace else. Somebody would have taken it. So we got it. We built a bike trail bridge for 1/3 of the cost, and it connects up and it makes life safer. And I tell you, one day we're going to look back at all the construction we're doing on our bike trails, and we're going to be proud of it. And I hate to break it to you in the first district, this is where everybody's coming. You live in the heart of it up here. These bike trails that we have going through Robertsdale, Whiting, I go through North Hammond on Sheffield. The link that Stan helped us put together over there, which is separate. It used to be 2 lanes each way on Sheffield. We're gonna be real proud. It's like a Mark Hines. Where are you? Hey, it's a lateral park, right? Could you linear park? Could you grab? See, I'm messing it up already. What would I do without these guys? It's a linear park.
It is a linear park, another term to be used, but it's a current linear park. One of the neat things that we see, and I live right by the Monon, is people who maybe don't live near a traditional neighborhood tot lot type of park, community level park. That's the green space near their parks. They're near their house. That's where they're playing. I've seen kids, playing sidewalk chalk, just sitting on a bench. Families are out there teaching a kid how to ride a bike, riding a big wheel, pushing them in a stroller, in the buggies, all those kinds of things. And you see that throughout the city. And I think that your vision to put these in is something that's huge. People look to communities that have these type of bike paths. They're just standards in communities. And unfortunately, Northwest Indiana is kind of late to the ballgame a little bit. However, there's, in my opinion, the one city that's standing out is right here. And you continue to do that more and more with what's happening coming in North Hammond and what Marty mentioned earlier with the connections near the sanitary district as well. So it's great.
Keep the microphone. I remember Mayor's Night Out last year. We were in North Hammond, and I got a petition handed to me with 600 names on it about the pool in North Hammond, Pulaski Park pool. At the time, I was looking at cutting our government. As I'm always challenging our government. In fact, I think when you guys finally see our budget this year, you're going to be proud of what we've done. We're ready for the tax caps. And last year, we were starting that process already. We were looking at how much we were spending on the pools, and we made a tough decision to shut down our pools in our city. And we had 4 outdoor public pools, which is ridiculously too many for a city of our size. And we said, we're going to go from 4 to 0, and we're going to replace them with splash pads. And then I went to Mayor's Night Out. I forgot where. I know it was in North Hammond. No, it was St. Stan? Lincoln, thank you. It was in Lincoln, and I got approached by the Pulaski Park Neighborhood Association with a petition with 600 names on it or something. It was a lot. It's like all of North Hammond signed this petition. And I was like, wow. So I sat down with Councilman Mark, said, okay, Councilman, let's make a deal. Let's try to figure out what we could do to make this pool amazing. And we came up with an idea. This all takes time, by the way, because when we switched courses and they're like, okay, now we're redesigning the Pulaski Park pool, and we came up with a concept that we thought was great, and I don't know how well it was received by the neighborhood association or by other members. Some people loved it, some people didn't, and it was a lot of money we were talking about spending. So we got together with the councilman and sort of went back to the drawing board, and I know that there's people that are frustrated that it's not open this year, but I want you to know we still have the money there. It's just, we're in the process now of designing it. So Mark, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. So while we're here in the first district, 1 year removed from, well, 1 year and a couple months removed from the last time the Pulaski Park Neighborhood Association approached us about this, it's moving. You know, obviously it's not going to start construction until next year, but the $2 million is sitting there waiting to be spent. Mark?
Yeah, and that's part of the bond issue that the park board did in 2017 that tackled all the pool sites. So Edison, Hessville, MLK, and Pulaski Park. So the other 3 have started or have completed. Edison was the first one. Hessville, we just had a ribbon cutting recently here, and MLK hopefully will be later this year, and then we'll be into Pulaski.
Not too late.
Hopefully not too late.
Yeah.
We're crossing
MLK
fingers right
is gorgeous. And I'm really trying to get them hurried up. I'd like to open it up in late October. That's a beautiful thing that we've done. That park is amazing. We've opened part of it already. We're doing like a area of remembrance for Dr. King. And I've already seen, I've taken some sneak peeks. What we're doing to that park is going to be where the MLK celebration will begin. Is going to be there, but it's gorgeous what we've done for Dr. King. And I want that park open real bad in October. So, and I know Mark's pushing real hard. So,
yeah, we're working hard with them to make sure to try to meet that date. Hopefully, if the weather stays like it is, we'll be real close to it, I think. So.
But as far as Pulaski Park pool, though,
Pulaski Pool is one where we had a design, and I think we shared that here last year at that time for a redesign for that pool and the bathhouse there. Probably to the point where it was almost over-designed based upon the available fundings that we do have. So we are working with them to rein that in based upon our $2 million that we had budgeted at each of these pool sites. So we want to look at that. That'll include saving the bathhouse, but it'll be a whole new pump house building and all the mechanicals that go with the operational aspect of the pool itself. So, but that is something that we're working on closely with Mayor, with Councilman Mark, and hopefully that'll be the next one we'll be cutting on a ribbon on not too far from, hopefully within the next year or so.
Cool. Mylan, how's the townhouses going on New York?
Good. Occupancy should be sometime the end of this month, beginning of next.
So they're sold already?
Well, the paired homes.
Right.
There's some.
Yeah.
At least 4.
Yeah, nice.
So the contractor's building more.
And then what about the Delo Parkway, the lots we have back there?
Well, there's one that's under construction right now. It's Lot 6, which is on the...
As soon as you pull in?
No. It's yes, on the right-hand side, on the north side.
Yeah,
yes.
I saw that one.
So we're very proud of that. That's going to add a little bit more tax base for the city.
New house is always nice.
Yep.
Awesome.
So very good.
Donnie, you have another question?
One more, Mayor. Who is our appointment for the Convention and Visitors Bureau? Is it Raimundo Garcia?
Damn, I had to take that last question. I should have just stopped. No, it's not. Mayor's appointee is Tom Dabberton, actually, of the United Citizens Association. Mr. Wilgus, who was our appointee, stepped down. And at about the same time, he took a position on the water board, if I'm correct. Right? You're on the water board now? I'm sorry, not on the water board, library board, I'm sorry, apologize. But yeah, Marty was there for years, 6 or 7 years, and now Mr. Dabberton's taken over. You know, there's a lot going on right now with that situation, and obviously litigation's been filed, but I just want to remind everybody that, you know, this was a Hammond Council appointee to this, and the Hammond City Council made a decision, and they complied with the law, and for no reason, their appointee, the one that Hammond Council represents you, and they made a choice on behalf of the citizens of Hammond, and they suggested that they, you know, gave that choice to Spiros and the South Shore Convention Board, and he rejected it. Put his own person there, and the guy didn't even live in Hammond. I couldn't believe it. It was an unprovoked attack, quite frankly, and I didn't think it was right, and I jumped on board with the council, and Councilman Markovich and I worked together on this process, and we're in a good spot. Within a week of filing the litigation, Spiros had backed away and basically apologized to the Hammond Council and asked them to drop the lawsuit. But the lawsuit is important because this guy is a bad actor. He has a law that was crafted for him, that's special legislation, it's against the Constitution, and he'll use this again. He did it to the Gary Council. The Gary Council appointed somebody. She was a lady that had a business. She lived in Gary. Her business was dog grooming business. She was in a truck and she traveled around. She's a wonderful lady. She worked at our house on our dogs a couple times, and a wonderful lady, very, very like happy and smiling all the time. And the council picked her and put her on, and Spiros did the same thing to them. I just don't think it's right, and I think that if we don't stop him now, he'll continue to abuse this power. I really do. And I'm looking on behalf of the interests of Hammond. I want you to know it's not going to cost a lot at all, but he attacked our city and he attacked our council, and I think it was, a lot of people are blaming me now, like I caused this. No. When somebody attacks our city, it's our job to stick up for each other, and the council acted appropriately. Spiros made up the law. He said, you guys failed to call me up and tell me, and there was nothing that required them to do so. And I know the local media loves this story, and I just want you to know it's important. I think it's important. I'm going to be watching the bills to make sure it's not abused, but we shouldn't have people on behalf of the Tourism Bureau that start wars with the local city councils. He should be helping us. Pierogi Fest. He doesn't give a dime to Pierogi Fest. They make millions of dollars every year. Their personnel budget's $1.5 million a year, and they could cut back a little and help out Festival of the Lakes, help out Pierogi Fest, help out the Lake County Fair, help out the Fusion Fest in East Chicago. They had the Gary Air Show. The Gary Air Show was a nice thing. It wasn't in Hammond, but the planes flew over our city. It was pretty cool when they had it, right? They shut that down. We don't want to spend that money in Gary anymore. Why are they collecting all this hotel motel money and using it in Valparaiso and using it in Fair Oaks Farm and all these other places, and they're ignoring Lake County? There's a lot of frustration that led to this point. And I'm always looking out for our city. I want you to know that if we get a good deal for the citizens of Hammond, I'll drop this lawsuit in a second, okay? But what they did to the council was unprovoked. It was an unprovoked attack by Spiros and the South Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau against our city council, and we got them to drop that lawsuit. Well, we got him to drop that part of the lawsuit within a week because it was clearly illegal. So, Kevin, you got anything you want to add on that? I talk too much?
Actually, I was just thinking about this, Mayor, that you might call on me for this. So that part is not really dropped per se. I guess what we agreed to do is we don't have to go forward with the injunction next week, or because the city council, we assume, is going to name someone on Monday, and then we assume that Spiros is going to seat that person. If that occurs, that part, you're right, Mayor, is over. However, as you just pointed out, and this is important because, you know, I'm in meetings with the mayor, and he is one that says, I know this is going to cost a little bit in legal fees, but it's worth the fight because I'm not going to let the city get run over. And in this case, it's still important for the court to determine that there was no notice requirement for the council. And it goes for not just the city of Hammond, but he's fighting for all of Northwest Indiana in this sense, and that is Gary, when they got determined that they couldn't, Spiros decided to make the law for them, Highland, Hobart, it happened in all those communities. So we think it's important for the court to still rule that there was no notice requirement, and then when a public body acts, that's all they have to do for their appointee to the board. So that's still out there, as is the constitutional issue. That's still out there as well. So the lawsuit continues per the mayor until the mayor tells us not to go forward.
Thanks, Kev. All right, how'd we do? See, what time is it? 8 o'clock? That's pretty solid. We have any questions left?
Not written, sir.
We had like 125 viewers at one point on Go Hammond, which is nice. So does anybody have any follow-up questions? Am I missing anything from the staff? You guys have anything you need to talk about? Sure. Kim finally got a question over there. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, Calumet Avenue was just resurfaced,
Yes, sir.
which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's
and all
great.
the roads have been resurfaced.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of excellent machine shops here in the area. And when they resurface the roads, due to like poor planning in the past and that, the manhole covers are where the tires ride in the cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if there's any chance that we could add adapters to the manhole covers to bring them up a couple inches to be within, so that the road would last longer, your ride would be better, wouldn't destroy cars.
Sure. Let's throw it to the engineer.
Thanks so much for that question. I know that Jack's department helps a ton on local streets, but Calumet Avenue was resurfaced by the state, the Department of Transportation, and so that's really under their jurisdiction on how they make those adjustments. But we do factor those things in our planning when we do roadways to try to make sure that those manhole covers are not in the wheel paths. I know we had a real problem on Kennedy Avenue, but Jack spent a lot of time and effort doing that.
Cool.
Mayor,
Yes,
a lot
sir.
of
Oh,
those
hey, Jack.
manholes that he's talking about are AT&T manholes.
Yeah. Okay.
Those belong to AT&T, not to the sanitary district sewer maintenance. So if it's
Okay.
our manholes,
Well, let's take this gentleman's request and see if we can do something with it.
okay.
Thanks, Jack. See what I'm dealing with, sir?
I do know in some towns they have moved them to the sidewalks. I didn't know if that's, I know it's hard to move the pipe, and,
Sure.
you know, I didn't know if there's a possibility we maybe move them or whatever.
We'll talk to him, especially on the more heavily traveled roads. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. All right. Thank you, guys. First off, I want to go over next Mayor's Night Out in the 6th District is October 16th, 2019. That's Morton High School Cafeteria on Grand Avenue in Hessville. I also want to point out that we're having a recycling summit. I know we talked about the recycling program and some changes we're talking about, and even asking the questions. You know, there's a lot going on in the industry, and asking questions about whether it's even worth, you know, doing this system anymore. And we want to have a community meeting, and we're going to go over some interesting facts, and you know, we want to see how many people we can get out there, and we're going to tape it, put it on Go Hammond. I think this is the kind of thing every Hammond resident should see, so that if we're going to recycle, we need to recycle better. And that takes a community effort. And I don't know if we've all been taught how to, I know our kids get taught how to recycle, but so we want to talk about recycling in our city. So we're having, it's sort of like a mayor's night out on recycling. We're not going to take questions about potholes and stuff like that at the recycling summit, okay? We want to have like a gathering like this and talk about recycling, and we're going to have experts there to talk about it. I know there's a lot of people that feel very strongly about this, because when I raised the question about recycling, even my wife was yelling at me, okay? So I want to have this summit. I want all of us to get together and talk about the problem and see if we could do better. And hopefully we could do it better, and we could be more effective with our recycling, and we can really make a difference, okay? So that summit takes place Thursday, October 24th at the Hammond Sportsplex. Jim, that's going to be in the community room? What's that? Soccer fields. On the soccer fields. So if you haven't had a chance, I know some people in this part of the city don't get down to that part of the city very often. Sportsplex is gorgeous, right there at the former Woodmar Mall site. Come down there on the soccer field. We're going to have our recycling summit. 6:30 to 8 o'clock, just the same time as Mayor's Night. I want to thank everybody for coming out to Mayor's Night in 1st District. It's always a great Mayor's Night. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the people on Facebook Live watching. Thank you very much. Don't forget to go out and get registered to vote. We have municipal elections coming up in November. I can't talk about who to vote for, but I want everybody to vote. Let's have a heavy turnout and go out there and do our jobs. It takes, with early voting, it takes 2 or 3 minutes to vote now. So go out and do your civic duty. Vote for the people you think that are going to represent your city the right way. Thank you very much for everybody that came out, and have a nice evening.